when I started doing Juicy Scoop, I just wanted to do a show that was just always interesting to me because coming off of Chelsea Lately, which was a late night talk show, it did always have to be funny, and the topics always had to be funny. So sometimes I'd put out a topic and I'd be like, ooh, we can't really make that funny, but it's so juicy.
But now you can relax into yourself. You're basically being yourself.
Yeah.
And I've said this for a while. Comedians, this is not a brag, are the greatest artists in the world because we have nothing except for us.
Exactly.
We don't have props. We don't have makeup people necessarily. You probably have a staff of makeup people.
No, I don't. I do my own
I'm kidding.
No, but
I'm a comedian.
No, but I do. I mean, most people are like sort of surprised by that. But no, I can do that. And that's one of the things that now, especially with a lot of people getting into podcasting, a lot of people doing these live like podcast shows, which are sort of like a talk show variety show on stage, and they're going on tour. And I think that's great for them. But what I was like, wait a minute, you know, there's so few of us that can actually just go on stage and be a stand-up. It's like the such a small percentage of entertainers can do that. So, and what's great about it and why we don't ever want to give up that craft, even if you get a TV show or you get something, you want to keep doing it because it is the one thing that you could always do, and you only have yourself. You only have to, all you need is just your clothes for the night. The mic is provided.
Right.
You don't need to bring a band. You don't need
there's no roadies.
Yes, you don't need to bring all this extra stuff. And so...
But you're saying you got to work that muscle. Even if you have a sitcom, you still got to go back and do the rooms and work that muscle because that's something that will atrophy over time, which it did during COVID. I don't know how much you performed, but, you know, the first few times out of COVID were, you know...
I did one show last October at Tempe, and then 3 different weekends in Texas in between February and March.
You did the Tempe Improv?
Yes.
Were they the glass between the tables? It was so weird.
I don't know. I didn't really mind it because it was
everybody was like a bank teller.
It was half full.
Yeah.
But the way they did it, it was still spread out. So it still, as you're standing there, it looked full.
It did, yeah.
And it was just like, that was the first show I'd done in like 7 months. And it was kind of freeing just to, because you had to throw away your old routine because it was like you hadn't done it in so long and you wanted to talk about what's going on now. So I found it to be like a little more freeing and improvisational and fun. And
so you weren't scared and you didn't feel like you're putting out the rust. You were going, this feels wonderful.
The first time, but then like the next show was great and I just had a blast. And then I really had a lot of fun doing the Texas shows. And now I've got a bunch of shows starting up this fall in August with San Francisco. Finally going to my Cobb's date, which was literally like canceled like 3 days before the massive shutdown.
Wow.
And then it was like,
now you're
tried
back.
to have it again, and now it's finally at Cobb's August 6th.
Once you get that first laugh, though, I have a theory, or maybe you might agree with this. I think people that the laughs are deeper right now, and they're a little more like forgiving if you're trying new material, because they're rooting for us now, where they sometimes would root against us. Yeah. Of course, your fans never would, but you know what I'm saying? It's like I think there's like I bring notes on stage. Yes, they're not offended.
And like just like a little outline, like a Tuesday. Yeah. Just because it's like
some reminders in case you forget.
Yeah, because you don't have that fine-tuned like hour that you've been doing for 6 months that you're getting ready to like film or something. But that's also kind of more fun because I'm like, and it used to be like, oh my God, I forgot to do that joke and I'd be so mad at myself. And now I'm kind of like, whatever, the show was great. Like there's things that you change. Everybody's changed because of COVID. Yeah. And for me, it's like, I'm a little less harsh on myself in that way. And
we're all kind of free now. We're literally free. We're outdoors and outside and going inside. It's everything changed. And the one thing about COVID, as comedians, we look for commonalities. Mm-hmm. It's the only time in history you could ever have one commonality that everyone experienced it. Think about that. Yeah. Like if you go, men do this, women do that. No, not necessarily. Yeah. Now, in this case, everyone was quarantined. Right. Everyone went through this. Everyone went through some difficulties. And so that space is a different space than it's ever happened in history. When you think about it. No,
I know. And that was also something very interesting about being, whether you're an actor, a comedian, a musician, is, when you're not working or when you're choosing to take time off, you still can like look at your phone and maybe I had a weekend at home and I'm having a nice weekend, and I look at my phone and I see my friend getting on stage and the whole crowd going crazy, you know, like cheering. And I'm like, you know, like, I'm happy for her. I had a nice weekend, but like, there's a little of that FOMO, a little bit of like competitive jealousy.
Wow.
And when you were just, nobody could go perform, it was like amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Anyway, tell people what friend poaching is. Did we come up with this together?
I came up with it. I've been saying it for like 3 or 4 years.
This is before you poached my friends. You had already been saying it. Because we talked about it on your podcast.
I just remember one time someone saying, "You're trying to poach my writers." Like someone trying to steal writers from the show.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I got the idea. And then I just, you know, it was just happening a lot with me in Hollywood, where like, I would meet somebody and invite them over for dinner, and then I'd invite this other friend of mine who is my best friend. Like, I adore her, okay? She's a good friend of mine. And this other girl. And then, like, all of a sudden, I'd go on Instagram and see that they all went out to dinner. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I'm in town. I'm squatting at home. And now I think there's rules to friend poaching. Okay, so you have a dinner party.
I want to hear these rules because Chris Spencer and I totally disagree on this.
Okay,
you're on my side on this.
This is what I think. You get invited to a dinner party or a party, okay? And someone goes, "Oh, you know, Craig, you should meet Joe. Joe, Craig, you guys will, you know, he does this, you do that." And you go, "Oh," you start talking, okay? And then you exchange numbers. And then you say, "Hey, I'm having a dinner party on Friday." Okay, that's fine that you invite Joe and his wife, but at least invite Peter, my husband, and I as well for the first go at it.
Okay, that's a rule. Okay, I like that rule.
And then if afterwards just the 4 of you get together or whatever, you kind of still reach out. I think some people, when they're poaching, they look at my schedule and they decide to have the dinner party when I'm in Boston. Because I swear to God that happened with Nikki Sixx. It absolutely
You think it's that you think it's that devious?
Yes, it was like 4 years ago.
That's heavy.
I try to say that I'm over it and I've matured during COVID and age, but I don't think I've matured that much.
Are there different categories when it's a celebrity friend poach?
Oh, it's way more. Celebrity or super rich?
Super rich or celebrity friend poach?
Well, that's who you want to poach. People are like, "Oh my God, I'm dying
I love she's admitting
to hang out with your post office guy. Like, he is the best. I'm taking him to Cabo." No, it's not
It's
that.
so bad with us now. When I talk to Peter, he'll say, "Oh, I knew him before you. I know him before you introduced us." That's what he said. So now we have to qualify.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
so we're all about
the date that we met and how we met, that it wasn't from you.
And then there's nothing better than when you have a friend that you believe is like a really bad friend poacher, and then they call you and tell you a story of where they're annoyed that someone poached someone of theirs.
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Hi, hypocrite."
Yeah, hello, karma.
Do I need to bring up these 4 occasions that happened? Like, but now I am officially finally over it.
Is it Iranian or Iranian?
I go with Iranian. Iranian is, but
I go with. I'm asking you the actual answer.
Iranian is the thing. It's Iranian, but people say Iranian is nicer than Iranian. Iranian was the one I hate.
That's
Iranian
not good.
Is fingernails on a chalkboard.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
Iranian. That sounds like the South. Like, he's an Iranian.
When people go, "Are you from Iran?" I go, "Are you from America? The hell is wrong with you? Learn how to say it." Listen, that was like when we attacked when we went to war with Iraq. George Bush was doing a speech. It's like, "We're going to Iraq," and I was like, I go, if I'm Saddam Hussein, I'd be watching this, be like, at least pronounce it right. If you're gonna attack our country,
he's ready to come out of the spider hole, to say, "All right, I'm out here just to tell you it's not pronounced Iraq.
It's not. It's Iraq. Now bum away." You know, it's like, gosh.
Yeah, but I mean, it must have been difficult because I remember. Listen, I'm not your culture.
Yeah.
And I'm offended by stuff that my friends are
crazy.
saying we got to go invade there. Iraq, they had to.
Yeah. Well,
Iraq.
There was Iraq. My whole take on all of that was there was actually this great guy. His name was Jack Shaheen. He was a professor, and he wrote a book called Real Bad Arabs, REEL, Real Bad Arabs, and he made a documentary out of it. And so he went back and studied the depiction of Middle Easterners, so Arabs, Iranians, Muslims, I don't care what, but all the people of that part of the world from like the 20s or so, starting from like, remember Rudolph Valentino, right?
Sure.
The Sheikh, right? And so
they were always played by, same with Native Americans, always played by a white person. Yeah.
But the depiction was always negative. And his theory was, when you depict people like this over and over and over and over again, then when it comes time to go to war with them, it becomes that much easier. Wow. So you hear people say things like, "Oh, let's just bomb the whole goddamn. Let's just bomb the whole goddamn. We'll just bomb."
My friend says, "Let's go get the sand fleas." I mean, like, how do you? Do you realize that they're children?
There's children. There's people living.
These are human beings. I just don't get it.
Listen,
it's all coming clear though with the Afghanistan thing. Dude, some people are starting to wake up.
Dude, it's crazy to me because here's the thing. I always say, like, one of the biggest atrocities of our country is we don't travel outside of our country enough. And I didn't, we
don't make a phone call outside.
We don't make a phone call.
Nobody knows anything what goes on in the other parts of the world.
When I came to America, like those first several years, I didn't really travel. I mean, you'd go to Mexico or something, right? That was it. And then you'd come back and be like, oh, well, the resort was nice. The drive was a little rough, but the resort, from the hotel from the airport to the resort was rough.
I got plenty of chiclets.
But I went, when we did our first, so Mitzi Shore put me, Ahmed, Aaron Cater, and at that time Sam Tripoli into a group, and it was called the Arabian Nights. This was in 2000, before September 11th happened. And Mitzi, as you know, was kind of a guru of comedy, and she used to have like Black Night and Latino Night and the Ladies Night. So she wanted a Middle Eastern night.
That was your theme, that was Middle Eastern.
That was the
Tripoli
theme.
is also?
Tripoli is half Armenian. His mom's Armenian. So this is what happened. So Mitzi, so I was the only... So I became a regular at the Comedy Store, either 99 or 2000, whatever it was. I was the only comedian from that part of the world that was a regular at the club. And, people don't know this, but when you're a regular at the club, that means you call in on a Monday. You're like, I'm available these nights. And they put you up on any random night and you gig.
You're on the list and
That's it. So
you got to be passed though by Mitzi.
You got to be passed by Mitzi. Yeah. And so then she's like, Mitzi was Jewish and she's watching television. And there was the latest uprising. This was in 2000 between the Palestinians and the Israelis and the Jews in Israel. And so she thought, okay, there's going to be a need for a positive voice for Muslims and Middle Easterners in the very near future. This is before September 11th. It's almost like she had a vision. So she goes, I want to do this Arabian Nights show. And at the time, I was the only, and Iranians aren't Arabs, but still, she wanted to call it Arabian Nights.
Sure,
that's fine.
Got it.
So close enough. So at that point,
as long as it's not Arabian.
As long as it's not Arab. Arab night, camel night. So she had seen Ahmed, and so she brought Ahmed on. I'd seen Aaron Cater, who was half Palestinian. I introduced him. And then Sam, I knew Sam. Sam had been trying to get into the club over and over and not getting past. And finally, I told them, I go, hey, I think Sam is half Armenian. Does that count? They go, sure. So they threw him in. Craig, we had an Indian guy. India has nothing to do with Iran, but or Middle East. I mean,
sure.
So we had an Indian guy. We had a girl who was a white girl who did a belly dance. So put her in. It was crazy. And we started this whole thing, and it was interesting because at first I didn't know. I was like,
before social media,
before
so
social media,
it had to be word of mouth or a mail with a stamp.
You would find what we did was like because she goes, I want to do Arabian Nights. I go, who wants to come to an Arabian Nights show? First of all, I go, when you do Black Night at the Comedy Store, there's a lot of there's a big black population and there's a lot of black comedians. Mm-hmm. I go, we're the only 4 or 5 comics. So if people come next month, they're going to see the same shit over and over again. I was like, who's going to do this? So what we did was we found like the Iranian student group, the Arab student group, the Egyptian student group. We just found
that was smart.
UCLA, USC, and we just gave away tickets. We papered the room the first time out, and we packed it.
Did you kill it?
Yeah, and people came and they're like, oh my God, there's people from our backgrounds doing shows.
You know what? That is a formula that I saw worked with Russell Peters.
Yeah.
Years ago, I stopped to see him in Irvine during the week.
Yeah.
I'm going, how's this guy, because I didn't really know him, how's this guy selling out? On like a Monday night, I stopped by. He goes, hey, man, yeah. And I watched the formula.
Yeah.
It's people that have been completely underserved.
Completely.
He empowers them. He goes, where are my Koreans at?
Yeah.
The whole act, where are my Filipinos?
Yeah.
And now the Filipinos who had been just dismissed and diminished.
Yeah.
They're going, he's talking about me, even though he's ripping on them.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how you empower people. So that was such a smart idea, and it caught on.
Well, it caught on, but also like so. What that allowed us to do was that Arabian Nights turned into the Axis of Evil comedy tour with me, Ahmed, and Aaron and Dino Bidala. Comes out on Comedy Central, and then we travel for the first time to the Middle East. In 2007, we did 27 sold-out shows in 30 days in 5 countries: Lebanon, Kuwait, in Dubai, which is in the United Arab Emirates, and then we did.
Did you do Iran?
Did not do. I can't do it. First of all, having made fun of the leadership in Iran, I can't go back to Iran.
Do you feel like you're on? I'd be afraid you're on a list.
I'm sure I'm on some list there. That's the whole point why I can't go back. Because, again, the people of Iran are amazing. And I have fans that are Iranian fans that will hit me up on Instagram. I do Clubhouse shows in Farsi now. I've just started doing Clubhouse shows in Farsi where I'm hosting a show and I'm interviewing people that are celebrities in the Iranian community. And people call in from Iran or tune in on Clubhouse. It's amazing, but actually landing in Iran would be, I think, dangerous because, first of all, again, the people are amazing. The government is very oppressive, and it could be one of those situations where they'll be like, "Oh, hey, you did this joke about the supreme leader, and let's go talk about it." And I think it's one of those things where it'll be like, they call you
last talk.
That's your last talk. Yeah.
Aren't you fueled by your past?
Absolutely.
But the people you resent, the people that picked on you. This is what leads us to do what we do.
Of course, 100%.
That's the pain.
I believe if you talk to most comedians, there is something, whether it be a breakup or whatever, that there's a specific moment they decided I'm going to be successful to piss whomever off.
Oh God. I was backstage once when I had a national television show, and they're about to announce me. I literally was going down the list.
It's great.
The list of the girls that shot me down for the prom, which was 13 long. Right. 13 shot me down. Little old Craig. I grew finally in high school, but beginning of high school, 5'1". So that's
5'1". That's particularly
92
short.
pounds. Yes.
Wow.
In high school, and it was really not a good thing. But it led to comedy.
Yeah.
So I have that list of people that, picked on me, stuffed me in lockers, wedgies, all those things that happen, the trash cans upside down, the whole deal.
Right.
So you got the list. I'm going to get even with them. And by the way, you never do.
You never do. And you know what's even worse than that?
They're not at home going, I could have been with a comedian.
What's even sadder is when I think one time, it was a couple of years ago, I ran into somebody. They weren't on my list of that, but it was still somebody I would be happy if they were impressed by my career. And they didn't even know. They were like, "Hey, Chris, what's going on?" And I'm like, "What are you up to?" And I'm like, "Oh, you haven't heard?" But so it was like, here I was.
He's asking you what you do for a living. That's even worse.
Like here I was, like pining away for their.
I know.
And they just even they're living their lives too, and don't even concern themselves with us.
I always thought to myself, I'll be on a Tonight Show or something. When the Tonight Show was something,
right?
When it wasn't watered down by other Tonight Shows.
Yeah, of course.
It was Johnny Carson. That's what you. So I just remember thinking, if I get on there, I'm going to put it out that my world cultures teacher from 10th grade, Cindy Kellogg, if you're out there, I'm single. This was like literally an image that I had that I was going to tell Johnny, can you get in touch with Cindy Kellogg for me?
Oh, that's amazing.
I still want to know what she looks like. My God.
Cindy Kellogg was she a teacher or she was in the class?
Teacher. She was so hot,
Well, now she got to be 90 years old.
I don't care.
Oh, okay.
Because it's locked in.
Yeah.
It's like 90.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
that makes me 87. She wasn't that much older.
If she was your teacher, she was probably 20 years older than you.
No,
at the time.
No.
So you're 16. Don't think she was 36.
No, not even close.
Oh,
she was about 24. 25.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, I could still bang her.
I always thought my teachers were so much older. I'm like, they were 23. Think that. They were.
I know.
Yeah.
How about parents?
Right.
Now we're older than people we consider really old.
I looked back at it's amazing.
Right? Your friends' parents, the older ones,
I know.
Of which, by the way, our kids
are,
they're going to suffer for this.
Yeah.
Of us being older parents.
I know.
My whole goal is that they don't say, is that your granddaughter?
It happened to me 2 days ago, I was
It's
taking
the biggest
baby
fear you
around the
could possibly
neighborhood,
have.
and the guy, he was a neighbor of mine, walking down the street, and he goes, "How's that granddaughter of yours?" And I don't think I look like. I think I'm like, I keep, as I like to say, I keep my shit tight. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like some old man walking down the street.
I'm laughing because I'm in a nightmare spiral right now. If that happened to me, I think they keep it quiet with me.
Right.
I had it one time. Not with actually, it was with my wife. And it was our second date. She was helping me sell merch. Our second date 15 years ago.
And they thought she was your daughter.
He says, "Is that your
That's
dad?"
even worse, I think.
Oh, stop it.
It is. I think.
I'm still spiraling on yours.
Okay.
Is worse. Yours is worse than that.
All right, that's fine. I'll take it.
It was the second date, though, and I thank God she's never heard it again.
Yeah.
You know, now being with me, she's old.
Right.
I'll age anybody.
Right.
But eventually.
Oh, my God. It's all so sad.
You had that happen?
Yeah, just like a couple days ago.
And what'd you say to the guy?
Well, the funny thing was, I think he was with his wife, and I think the wife was like, "That's not his grand." Like, are you crazy? He's
always
the father.
The wife is always there to shut the
I think she
idiot
had
up.
to explain to him, because I've since run into him since, and he hasn't said it again. So I think that he was corrected.
Don't you find that, like, when we go out on the road, this is what I want to explain to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
We know what people want.
That exactly.
We have our finger on the pulse. They grew up in the mailroom at William Morris and don't know anything. They base things on fear and trends.
I think you see it in television a lot, especially in network television. I was watching something, I won't say the name of it, but last night on CBS there was an actual, like
starring Jeremy Piven.
Jeremy Piven. There was actually like a 3, camera sitcom.
Yeah.
Shot on a soundstage, and it was a new sitcom, and it was so bad and so old and felt so old to me that I was like, I just don't think they know any better. I don't think they've seen how comedy, like the beats are different now, and they wouldn't know that because they're not out there. They're
not. I was in a writer's room. You were written for a sitcom?
Oh, yeah, many.
Oh, and they resent you.
Right.
Because you're out there earning money. And,
right. I used to have to leave on Thursday or Friday. And
same here. They hated me. I come back with a tan.
Right.
Where were you? I was in Hawaii. I had a couple nights in Hawaii. Where were you? Well, we were here in the room for 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have a name. They don't have a name. And they're pitching themselves to be on the next season.
I know.
And work with other writers and stuff like that.
I don't understand. I honestly, I will say this. I don't understand the writer's room without any stand-up comedians. I really don't. It doesn't make any sense. I know there are brilliant writers who are not stand-up comedians, but you get a room of stand-up comedians, your show will be 10 times better for it.
Absolutely. You know where the punchlines are. You know where the beats are.
Right.
You know what makes them tick.
You also know what is a premise that has been oft used. They don't. They're like, oh, that's like airport food or whatever. And they're like, oh, is that something that people are talking about? Like, yes, it's out there. So don't use that one. So I don't know. It is interesting.
It's something that I am glad I experienced it.
Yeah,
I'm glad I've experienced every aspect of Hollywood.
Totally.
But I would like to run Hollywood.
Yeah.
I'd like to run it with you being my vice president.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind if I was the lead. You'd be my vice president.
Okay.
We know it's like we can pick the menu that they eat.
You
don't do foie gras in Idaho, okay?
No,
they're not going to eat it.
True. Exactly.
No, they don't know what it is. They're not going to eat it. They're not interested.
Right.
But I will give them something nutritional and tasty, right?
Right.
But also has fat.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because that's what they want.
Yeah, right.
But they don't work that way here. They work in fear and trends.
I'll say this, though. I believe that old school model is going away, and it's being replaced by things like this, by podcasts and things like this.
It's true.
And they're becoming less and less important. And I think it's killing them. I really do. I think this town, look at the people we performed with the other night. Half those guys are not on television. And Andrew Santino sells out theaters right now.
I know.
And Andrew,
he's on television. That's
well,
not true.
but he's not on television in a way you would know him.
On a sitcom.
Yeah, he was on. But he's a
Hulu.
fifth lead on Hulu or something. He's not. He's not Ray Romano. You know what I mean? The reason why he's selling out theaters is because he's on a podcast with Bobby Lee, and it gets for 100,000 downloads a week. Wow. That's who's coming to his show.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
My mother was like incredibly funny, and my father was physically funny. So it was like having a clown for a parent and then just an incredibly witty, smart person.
He's doing like Chevy Chase dives on the coffee table?
Pretty much. I put my father in every show that I was ever on. And one time I bought my dad because I would get these random calls every now and then and say, honey, listen, great news. I've decided to try acting. And I'm like, great news for who? Okay, not for me. It's not great news. So I'm ready to get an agent. I go, fantastic. You live in Tucson and you're an obstetrician gynecologist. So why don't you stick at the thing that's paying you? And he's like, can you get me some work? So I bought him a walk-on part on the original CSI.
You bought him a part.
It was $800 at an auction.
Yeah.
The show had just started. I get this call from my father. Oh, honey, I got a call from the producer. It's a pass from me. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, I'm going to pass. I go, you're not going to pass. I paid $800.
He's even using showbiz language.
Yeah, it's a pass. It's a pass.
It's a pass.
It's a pass from me. I go, Dad. He goes, honey, they want me. First of all, there's no lines. I go, I've explained this to you. You're not in the union. It's an extra part. You're not going to go on. He goes, well, they want me to play a corpse. I go, the whole show's about corpses. You could have been a lead corpse. He goes, well, I've told them no. I go, well, did you get the $800 back? No. Then my mother.
He wouldn't do it.
He passed.
Wouldn't play the corpse.
Wouldn't play the corpse.
Wow. Didn't you tell him Kevin Costner started as a corpse?
And continued as one. Have you seen his acting?
Oh, wow.
Good night, everybody.
Wow. Good night, everybody. That's the end of the show right there. Can I get a water?
You look like Kevin Costner.
What's that?
You look like Kevin Costner.
I get that a lot. I actually had two people that thought I was Kevin Costner. Isn't that
you
weird?
Spoke and then they were like, what the hell?
Yeah, what's that?
What's with the no
Can't
L's?
say an L. This can't be Kevin Costner.
Dances with boobs.
Sorry. Feet of dreams.
Luckily, we can't think of any other.
Exactly.
Kevin Costner.
That's why we laughed longer.
Yes.
We had.
I can't think of any
trying to
Kevin
come up another
Costner
way. Neither one of us can come up with.
Feet of Dreams, very good.
That was good.
That was very
but that's
good.
it.
But then
we ended at that. I'm sorry. Boo Durham. Boo Durham. How did we not know that one?
Durham.
Oh.
So good. No Way Out has no L's. Yeah.
Now we're the whole Kevin Costner retrospective. Yeah.
Now,
and by the way, the whole interview, you'll come up with another one. I just know it. It'll be the most brilliant one of all.
No, I'll be driving home. Okay, so then I got to tell you about my dad. So my dad, my dad at age 70 got a tattoo of a bear claw all the way down his arm. He was very spiritual. My dad was not super present when I was a kid.
Spiritual?
No, that was his
like a Native
animal.
American
spirit
animal.
animal.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he's trying to pick up, wilderness chicks.
No, he just wanted to join a biker gang. No, he was a very spiritual guy. He used to always call and go, honey, I'm going into my silent retreat. I'll be in it for 2 weeks, and I'm going in half an hour. I said, okay, I'll call you back in 40 minutes. And then I would always say to my sister, I go, did you get a hang up on your birthday? That was Dad from the silent retreat wishing you a happy birthday.
My sister took my mom to one, and she smuggled in her BlackBerry. And she said she got mad at me because she caught me with my BlackBerry. I can't go that long without my BlackBerry. So she's called me from the silent retreat to tell me that they were trying to tell her to stay silent.
Oh my God! I took my mother to the.
Do you do that kind of thing? You take your parents to?
Of course, we went to a million. My mother and I traveled all over the world.
Wow, that's awesome.
I took my mother to the Hippocrates Institute in Florida.
Florida, yeah.
Which is literally just juicing and eating wheatgrass and having enemas. And my mother could not stand it. She said, I can't stand these women. They just sit around and talk about their bowel movements endlessly. And so people would go, I remember she did two things. She goes, anyway, these people are like, did you get the colonic? And my mother said, you know what I'd love? A pina colonic.
You grew both parents with a sense of humor.
Oh, and my sisters are far funnier than I am. Far funnier. Oh yeah. Look, but they had other skills. I only had this skill.
Where did you grow up again?
Montreal.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, I knew it was Canada, but I didn't know it was Montreal. Are you bilingual? I'm not getting personal, but
as I've always said, I can speak French, but only in the present tense because that's all I can remember from high school. So as long as it happened this moment, I could say it.
I learned stuff that would pick up women. That's all.
And what
I
was
was in
it?
Montreal.
What was it?
Je t'aime.
That's a big opener. Where do you go from there? Je t'aime. And then
I go from I love you.
I love you. How about I'd like to get to know you? Maybe a little bit.
Well, of course, I use the voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir. I mean,
wow. I mean, if you don't go to a 70s disco song, how are they not throwing themselves
if they're
at you?
young enough, they wouldn't know that.
Oh, my God.
They wouldn't know the song, right?
That's like, oh, God. All right. So what is the origin of the Love Master?
This is not supposed to be your interview of me.
Well, I'm a very bossy Aries.
Maybe if you had me on your talk show, which you
know
never
what?
did.
I would have loved to have.
But never did.
But never did.
You and Rosie both. Rosie, I grew up with Rosie. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
Since teenagers, yeah.
No.
We started together. We used to tour together, sleep in the same bed together, me and Rosie.
Well,
honest to God.
Explains a lot about Rosie's choices now. You had clearly not invented the Love Master at that point.
I remember the night that she admitted it. That she came,
Wow.
She actually.
You don't admit it. It's not like you've committed a crime.
Yes, you do admit it.
I admit it.
Maybe that's okay. I know the word's coming out, but that's all Philly could come up with. She admitted it.
Yeah.
So
she solved the crime.
Well, she was denying it, so now she admitted it.
Okay.
At one
the Love
time.
Master has brought lots of love and enlightenment to the world. I would like to know the
Lots
origin.
of sex.
Yes.
A lot of people. I set them up. They knock them down. I mean, so many guys try to be the Love Master, and babies have been born from it. I'm not exaggerating.
Oh, God.
A lot of people have given credit to the Love Master.
You know what's really funny? Knowing you and then watching you do the Love Master, and then you're like, it's just great. And then you're like, oh.
I know, it's weird.
It's weird.
It's creepy.
Like, that character is like strangely arousing and repelling all at the same time. It's like, I know it's him, but then I'm like, oh, no. I don't want to feel that way, but I do. You're like, I'm not falling for this. Yes, I am. Yes, I freaking am. Terrible.
I've never had it explained like that before. Because I know people have different reactions to it. Some people get creeped, but he came to me.
You know what? He'd get me too now. You can't really do him anymore.
Well, I do.
Oh, you still do?
It's a play on people like that.
Yeah.
I might as well be doing a Harvey Weinstein impression. You know what I mean?
It's true.
You can't, or Bill Cosby, right?
Jesus.
I guess that's a little far. But anyway, it's a character it's basically to combat what girls would give me horrible times back when I was a kid, right? They used the F word, friend. It's always the friend.
Oh, I was like, they tell you to fuck off?
No.
What?
Well,
That's
that
so
too.
mean.
That too. If I tried anything besides being a friend,
you got
then it turned
friend-zoned a lot?
Then it turned
Even
always.
Even as a sexy Scorpio?
13 girls I asked to the prom.
No.
And don't you think I can't list them right now for you, right in order?
And you know that each one you're hoping has a thyroid condition and...
Oh, it's happened. It's happened. Got my vengeance. One of them I looked... And she gigantic. Herpes sore, and she's what's that?
Wow. You did not invite
but I'm
13
clean. I'm
girls.
clean now.
You invited 13
I invited 13.
girls
I could name every one of them.
To the prom?
They all shot me down. And you know,
I hate all of them.
Do you know how girls pee together?
Okay,
right?
I went to all-girls school and was captain of the virginity team, and my mother was the coach. I remember our school cheer, go, no, no, no. But nobody would have ever done that. We were like nice. No Canadian girl would have said no to you.
Oh.
I mean, for the prom. That's so awful.
Oh, it was awful. Well, I was really
Do you know what
tiny.
my sister did
I was
when-
tiny with a
Oh.
squeaky voice, no pubic hair. Back then, you
Well,
wanted
did you
it.
mention that in the invite?
Well, I didn't
have
say-
no pubic hair. Do you
No,
want to
no.
go to the prom? Maybe that was part of it.
Well, it looked like a panel on a wall switch.
Oh
I
my
had nothing, I had
God! Oh
nothing
my
going
God!
on.
A panel on a wall. You know what? You needed a publicist back then. You were gonna get nowhere.
Oh, I had no good pub, and no.
You know what happened when my prom date arrived?
What?
Admittedly,
Did you ask your prom date, or
I went to all-girls school. We almost had to just dance with other girls.
so
We
you
were
had to
allowed
ask your prom date?
Yes, I did.
Ooh.
The prom was in June. I asked him in March.
Another boys' school. You went over to another the
Yes,
all boys
and
school.
when my
recruited?
daughter finally met him.
Your daughter met your prom date?
Yeah, because we're friends, and I hadn't seen him in years, and he was coming to New York.
I get it. Yeah.
And he came over, and she, he's so sweet. And when he left, Ava said, "Well, why didn't you marry him?" I'm like, well, he didn't ask. He barely kissed me, and I remember he tasted like strawberry ice cream. Anyway, I just remember. Anyway, when my prom date arrived, it was 1981.
He's your prom date, but not your boyfriend. He was just your prom date, right?
He was just my
you
prom
wanted
date.
someone that looked good for the photos?
No,
Is
I
that what you
wanted
went
him
with?
to be my boyfriend.
Oh.
And it was only until the next week that we mildly even hooked up, but he had a giant bow tie. Like I remember, it was almost clown-like. I thought water's coming out of this. And I opened the door. No, my sister, who is such a when she wants to be like the funniest human in the world, but just has could care less for anybody's feelings. And
no filter.
No filter, but hilarious.
Okay.
And she said, she opened the door and she said, Cro-Magnon man is here.
In front of him?
Yes! Now, what if he didn't marry me?
That's an early cock blocker going on.
She is such a cock blocker. She has been so mean to certain I swear to God, boyfriends have broken up with me. I have a boyfriend who I will never introduce. I mean, like, they're not meeting her. She's terrifying. Really? Like, the last one, she really, she hated him. She would literally be like, he said, why don't you like me? Because you're not good enough for my sister, which turned out was true. And so she feels like, I told you. And I go, but you didn't need to tell him.
Maybe she's like a parakeet in a mine. You throw her in there, and she's going to let you know if it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So that might be a good idea.
Yeah, but the one
we all should have one of those.
I know.
I've always said you should bring your best friends with you or people that know you really well on every first date.
You absolutely should.
And they sit there with a remote, and you have a shock collar. Right?
So if you're an alcoholic. Oh, but we can work with that and a drag it.
And you're going, I could change her.
That's like the joke I had in my 20s. I said, dating in your 20s, it's like so much fun. It's like getting a science project. What did you get? I got an alcoholic. I'm going to change him. What did you get? And in your 30s, you're just like, no.